So, back in Iceland again, and it's snowing. So one of the things that I've noticed in photography is that familiarity with the scene, a place that you've been to a lot, or the expectations that you carry coming in with you can sort of prevent you from really seeing it. You've seen it so many times that you forget to look, or you have a big expectation of what you're going to find, that it's very easy just to walk past other scenes because you're so focused on the place that you know. And this can kind of cause you to have a template in your head of what you're going to shoot. So what I've been trying to do on this last couple of trips is find ways to overcome them, find techniques to make me see the world, see these scenes in a different way. So one of the things that I've been doing quite a lot is shooting a lot of panoramic format images. Now, I've always loved panoramic images. I think there's something lovely about that letterbox format. Some of the first photography books that I bought when I first started out were books by people like Charlie Waite or Lee Frost with these incredible panoramic images, and it's always really inspired my imagination. But I think recently they've gone out of fashion quite a lot because so much of photography nowadays is viewed on phones and so many people are shooting for Instagram. So there's been a real kind of surge in vertical images, which are great and they have their place, but the panoramic format really doesn't work viewed small in a phone or viewed in Instagram. You really need to see it on a wide computer screen, or even better in a print or in a book across a double page spread. One of the best ways and one of the most common ways nowadays of shooting panoramic images is to shoot multiple images and then stitch them together in Lightroom. It's super easy. It's a very simple procedure to do that. But what I find is that doesn't really help me see the scene differently. One of the things that I really like about the cameras that I'm using now, the Fuji cameras, is that I can crop on the back of the EVF and the LCD and actually see the scene in a panoramic format, in that kind of letterbox format, something like a 16:9 or a 65:24 format. It just kind of blocks up the top and the bottom of the image. It gives you the whole of the raw file, but when I open it in Lightroom, it's going to be kind of pre-cropped. I can uncrop it if I want the full image, but it gives you that pre-crop, which is really nice because it just helps you visualize the scene in a panoramic way. And I really like that because as soon as you start to look through the viewfinder of the camera, you see the scene in a very different way. Panoramic images have a completely different flow to normal images. You're always looking for scenes with a very strong horizontal flow. You're often not usually using foreground. Skies have a much less impact in the image because you're looking for that horizontal flow. So things that happen on the left and the side of the frame, or even more so using negative space to give the image some balance. So I found that setting up the camera like this really just helped me see the scene in a different way, and it inspires me to shoot things that I probably normally just walk past. I wouldn't give them that much importance, but they just really work when you look at them in a panoramic format. And it's just really nice to come away with the sort of shots that I wouldn't normally have done. This is the waterfall of Brafoss in Iceland, and the waterfall here is actually relatively small. It's not particularly high, so this you usually shoot it with an ultra-wide angle lens to capture the flow of the blue color in the water as it flows down the river. But putting the camera into a 16:7 crop and really zooming in just brought a whole different aspect to the scene and really let me focus in on the actual waterfall itself and the way that the different streams are flowing over the rocks, and just helped me to see the scene in a different way. We were really lucky to get this incredible sunrise at Dýrahálai here. Now, this is a place that has a lot of strong horizontal flow. You've got the landmass on the left, you've got the horizon of the sea, and just the curve of the ocean as it rises up the beach, and that just black curve of the beach. Now, you can shoot this really well just in a regular landscape format or even in a vertical format, because your two elements here are the foreground rock stack and then the rock stacks in the ocean with the sun rising behind them. That's really where your eye is going to go to. But shooting it in this panoramic format, this is a 65:24, really includes a lot of negative space, particularly on the right. But I really like the feel of this. I really felt it just brought out something about that particular sunrise and really leaned into that horizontal flow of the image. This is another scene that I would typically lean into shooting as a vertical composition. There's very little going on. You've just got the simple church, and because we were in the middle of a snowstorm, the whole of the background was removed by the bad weather. But again, having the crop on the camera really made me lean into the negative space on either side of the church. And what that does here, it kind of emphasizes the isolation of the church. If you shoot this vertically, you lose that a little bit. You lose that sense of isolation. It's still a nice shot, but having all of that negative space on the left and the right and centering the church really just leans into this being a church in the middle of nowhere, and the weather's really helping there just by completely removing the background. Now this is a scene from Lofoten in Norway, and again the panoramic crop here really leans into negative space. The weather here again was just completely removing the back of the fjord. It was really snowing heavily, so you can just see the vague outline of the mountains behind the hut. To the right of the hut there's actually a road, and it's particularly ugly there. It's a scene that I've tried to shoot a number of times, but it always feels a little bit cramped. But the way the weather was totally removing the background there, let me lean in with a panoramic crop and just have the whole of the left side of the image, the whole really left 2/3 of the image, just as negative space. So I think on first viewing it does feel like this is a little bit unbalanced, but negative space does have a weight. It's the negative space that kind of balances that red hut there. And again, like the earlier picture of the church, what this does is it increases this sense of isolation. You get this idea of this red hut stuck in the middle of nowhere, completely isolated from the rest of the environment. Now, in reality, it's not, but you can create that illusion by the use of negative space and the crop here. This is a kind of scene that I'm often guilty of just walking past and not really seeing. We had a really lovely fresh snowstorm, so I was just basically looking for elements, for things that would work, and it was the end of the day in Lofoten. There was a really nice sky. And again, having the panoramic crop, this is again 65 by 24 on the GFX, having that crop just framed the scene in a totally different way. If I'd been looking at this, I think, through the viewfinder with its regular crop of 4:3, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. It's that horizontal flow of the trees from left to right, the negative space of the snow in the foreground, the way that it gives the sky enough room to breathe, and your eye just pulls into this little house hidden behind the trees. It's not an amazing image, but it is something that I've not shot before. It's something that I would normally walk past, and it's just really nice to come back from a place that I've been to many, many times before with new images. And here's a couple of other panoramic images that I shot that I probably wouldn't have seen unless I'd been specifically looking at the landscape, looking at the scene for things that worked with a panoramic crop. Now, another thing that I found really kind of helps me see scenes in a different way is using my phone a lot and doing photos with my mobile phone. What I've found is that for what I think of like serious images I'm going to take with my proper camera, that's in my backpack. So I'm usually on my way to a location, walking there, trying to get there in time for the light, and I've got a pretty clear idea of what it is that I'm going to shoot. And that can kind of cause me very easily to walk past things and not really look at them because I'm on my way to somewhere else. And it's just too much trouble to put your backpack down, get everything out, set up the tripod and do a shot. So if something does kind of pique my interest, and I tend to do a phone shot with it. And now if you followed my Instagram at all over the last couple of years, you'll know that I shoot a lot of phone stories whenever I'm traveling, whenever I'm on a workshop, whenever I go anywhere. And what I found about this is it's an incredibly liberating way to shoot because I don't give it the same kind of seriousness. I don't pay it the same attention that I would if I'm shooting something with my regular camera. Because they're just stories. They appear for one day in my social media account and then they're gone. But what they do is they really open my eyes to see things in a different way. So I'll take snaps with the phone and then just move on. But what I've been trying to do more on this trip is use that as a way of actually finding compositions. It kind of helps me see things in a different way. There's something about the ease with which you can take a photograph with your phone. You always have it with you. It's always in your pocket, so it's easily accessible. So you can just get it out and take shots that usually you wouldn't really think that much about. There's a throwaway nature to them, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it, because we're shooting digital anyway, so it's all free. But I think it's just, for me, it's that kind of mindset. Photography generally for me is a relatively slow process. I like to kind of get to a place, explore it, let the place kind of sink in, take my time, and then really work at my composition. Whereas it's the opposite of that when I'm shooting with a phone. I'll just walk past something, think this looks nice, frame it, shoot it, and then move on. So I've been using that as a kind of guide to then actually stop and get the heavy camera out and shoot something properly. And I found that it's actually given me some interesting compositions, some kind of images that I would never really have thought of. It's not the kind of thing that I have in my head. And just like anything that's useful, it helps me to break the templates that I have, those fixed templates that can kind of make you see something in a particular way, which stops you from seeing other things and makes things very easy to miss. So here are a few of the images that I shot. Now these are shot actually with my main camera, but they're compositions that I probably wouldn't have seen unless I'd been composing with my phone first. So it really kind of gave me a way of seeing new compositions, seeing new locations in a place that I'd shot before. In this case, it was Lofoten earlier this year. So you can see here's the phone image, and here is the image that I then went back and shot with my camera. Here's another example of that, this small kind of cascade here. I saw this, walked down and took a shot with my phone, and then set up the camera and took an actual proper shot with my GFX. And then you've got all these shots here of these different huts. And these are the kind of things that I've kind of stood next to, walked past, and just never really bothered to try to make proper images of. But shooting them with the phone, seeing how they came out with the phone, just really made me want to kind of try to put a collection together of images that were taken properly, that were exposed properly, that I'd taken a little bit more time over composing with my main camera. But if it hadn't been for the fact that I shot them first with my phone, that I just walked past and done a snapshot with the phone, then I probably would never have shot any of these compositions. And this final image was taken on this Iceland trip. Now, I was having trouble shooting here. It was very overcast sky. It's quite dark. There wasn't really anything happening. And I was trying to use a telephoto lens just to isolate the rock stacks. But when I was shooting with the phone, I started to play around with how I could make that work. And what you can do on the phone is if you shoot the phone in live where it has like a little bit of video, you can then turn that into a long exposure. So by doing that and then converting that image to black and white on my phone, it inspired me to change lenses and shoot the beach in a totally different way to the way that I'd been seeing it, shooting it wider, shooting a very long exposure to really blur the water. And I came away from a scene where I hadn't been inspired before with an image that I'm actually quite happy with. So what I found is that by using these couple of techniques, it's helped me when I've come back to these places, these familiar places that I really know, and see them with new eyes and come away with just some refreshing images, stuff that I've never shot before. And that's pretty much it for this video. I hope it's been interesting. I hope it's been useful. If so, please feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. If you like my photography, if you like the way I shoot, I'd love to have you join me on a workshop. I'll be coming back here next year, visiting all kinds of places. I'll be in Namibia, in Greenland, Patagonia, Japan, Ecuador. So you can find full information on all my workshops on my website. If you've got any questions at all, just drop me an email and I'll get back to you. And as ever, thanks so much for watching. Good luck with all your photography, and I'll see you next time. Take care.